Hello, I'm Becky Cooper, I'm your MP for Worthing West. I wanted to make this video to tell you what's been happening in Parliament these past couple of days. As you know, there's been a lot of conversation around the welfare reform bill, and a lot of us have been really concerned that the measures there were not going to protect the most vulnerable people in our society and people who were getting support from personal independence payment, obviously and often while they were in work. So over the past few days there have been concessions made by the government, and as of yesterday there were 3 concessions. So I had 4 red lines that I had identified along with many colleagues to say, if these 4 red lines are addressed, then I am satisfied that we can move forward, obviously looking at further amendments, but I'm satisfied that we are not pushing people into poverty and causing people more ill health. As a doctor, that's really important to me. So where we got to yesterday was that we had 3 of those 4 major issues addressed. The first one was around existing personal independence payment claimants, and they were given the assurance that they would not move on to a new system and that their existing claim would be upheld and would be subject to the current criteria even when they were reassessed. The second one was around universal credit for people with long-term health disabilities and serious health conditions. And there were concerns when we ran the numbers that the amount that people received would actually decrease from the starting point. The government has given assurance that that will not be the case and that people's real-term income will be protected. Incredibly important for supporting people who have those conditions. And the third point was around the employment support. The pledge of £1 billion was very welcome, but we were concerned that the money would not come into effect until nearer the end of this Parliament, and the assurance was given that the money would be front loaded, so we would start seeing that employment support coming through, which I know places like Worthing Job Centre and other areas are going to be incredibly we'll use that money really well, so that's really good. And obviously we want to see as many people in work as possible, but balancing that alongside making sure that people who need support access it, even when they're in work, with the personal independence payment. So the remaining red line going into today was the issue of future claimants, and the issue that what needed to happen was to go onto a new system. There really needed to be a good review of the current system, and that had to be done as a co-production with people who lived the lives who would be affected by this new system, and also the organisations that represent them, so disability organisations and people who are living with personal independence payments, and what that means for them and how a future system can be designed to be fair and to make sure that people who need personal independence payment actually access it. And coming from health, I know that co-production can be quite difficult to do well and that you need to take a bit of time to do it. And the concern was that the review led by Stephen Timms, the Minister, would not be concluded before the new system came into effect, therefore meaning that new people whom claiming PIP went onto a system that hadn't actually been reviewed and that wasn't robust, and that some people would not claim PIP based on a criteria that had not been thought through. Today we have been given assurances by ministers, by Number 10 and in the Chamber, that the new criteria will not now come into effect until that review is finished, and the new criteria will be subject to the results of that review, and that will require secondary legislation to allow that new assessment to come forward, so it will have to come back to Parliament. That has reassured me that this bill is putting people who are such a valuable part of our society, such a valuable part of our communities, front and centre, making sure that they can live with dignity, making sure that this Labour government is doing what it should, helping people to get back into work whenever and wherever possible. There's so much good stuff in the welfare bill around right to try and supporting people, as I've said, with employment support, but making sure that for those people for whom work is not an option, that we are supporting them well, and that personal independence payments are being utilised by people to allow them to stay in work where they are staying in work, and to support them in other ways. So with that in mind, I am going to be able to vote with the government. I appreciate that there has been a lot of noise around this bill and a lot of anger and a lot of outrage, and I hear that, and I would like to say that I want policy to be made in a way that does not mean that myself and other backbenchers have to put things in like reasoned amendments going forward. I know that the government has heard that, and I sincerely hope that lessons are going to be learned, because it's so important that we get this right. You know, you've put us in this very privileged position to represent you, and we need to do the very best that we can for you. I hope that makes sense. I appreciate I've talked for quite a long time. That was 5 minutes, so I hope you've got to the end. I will, of course, be trying to answer emails, and I will be thinking through comments that please do send to me over the next week, because now, that was only the second reading, to be fair, that we're going to vote on. We've still got the Bill Committee of the whole House, so there will be amendments coming forward to make sure that the detail is really robust, and then of course we have the third reading, so I will be going through this process again to make sure that the issues as I understand them now hold firm over the next week with the amendments as they come forward and the detail. Thanks so much for entrusting me to do this job. It's a real privilege. I've tried to do it to the very best of my ability for this bill for you, and I will keep trying to work as hard as I can. Many thanks. Bye bye.